Imagine you're in the middle of a war zone. Seriously, bullets are cracking right over your head. Everything is chaotic, confusing, it's all spiraling out of control. And then, in the heat of battle, a whole series of catastrophic mistakes are made. When the dust finally settles, the mission is a total failure. Members of your team are hurt, and an ally is dead. An investigation gets launched, and everyone is looking for someone to blame. So who is it? Who is responsible?
Now, this isn't some hypothetical scenario. This was the brutal reality for a U.S. Navy SEAL task unit in the deadly streets of Ramadi, Iraq. They were in the middle of this super complex operation, multiple friendly units involved, and, well, everything that could go wrong did. The battlefield just became this tangled mess of confusion, a perfect storm of what military strategists call the fog of war.
In all that chaos, a firefight erupts. But here's the thing. Amidst the noise and the confusion, a critical, fatal mistake is made. The enemy isn't who they think it is. A friendly fire incident occurs, and a SEAL operator is hit.
And the tragedy just escalates in the worst way possible. An Iraqi soldier, an ally who is fighting right alongside the Americans, is killed in that same incident, and several others are wounded. The situation has just gone from bad to absolutely catastrophic.
So, what was supposed to be a successful operation has now completely unraveled. It's a total disaster. The mission objective wasn't met, and the human cost was just devastating.
The blame game starts immediately. You know how it goes. The communication plan was vague. Timelines were pushed. Locations weren't reported properly. The Iraqi army changed their plan but didn't tell the SEALs. The list of failures just goes on and on. So, with all of that, who is really at fault?
Well, the answer to that question lies in this incredibly powerful principle from the book Extreme Ownership by former Navy SEAL officers Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. Welcome to MindSwitch Books. In this explainer, we're going to break down their core philosophy, see how it applies from the battlefield to the boardroom, and uncover one of the most transformative mental models for leadership you will ever encounter.
At its heart, extreme ownership is a simple but kind of radical concept. It means that as a leader, you are responsible for everything. And I don't mean just the tasks you directly control. I mean every single thing that impacts your mission. If your team fails, that's on you. If a subordinate makes a mistake, well, that's your fault for not training them properly. There are no excuses, there's no one else to blame.
So let's jump back to that disaster in Ramadi. As the commander, Jocko Willink is debriefing the operation. The list of individual mistakes is huge. I mean, from planning to execution, multiple people dropped the ball. It would have been so easy, almost natural, to point fingers and just pass the blame down the chain of command. But as he's looking through his notes, trying to figure it all out, a completely different truth just hits him. In the formal debriefing with his superiors, everyone in the room is expecting him to name the people who failed. Instead, he says this: "There's only one person to blame for this, me." He took full, complete responsibility. He owned the failure, 100%. And look, this wasn't just some political move. It was a profound shift in mindset. By accepting all the blame, he was also seizing the power to fix the problem and make damn sure it never happened again. That right there, that's the essence of extreme ownership.
Okay, so right about now, you might be thinking, that's great for Navy SEALs, but how does this apply to my life or my job? Well, let's move from one battlefield to a completely different one, the corporate world, and see how this principle builds. I want you to meet a vice president of manufacturing. He's got this brilliant plan, right? It's going to cut costs, increase productivity, the whole shebang. But it's failing, miserably. And when he's asked why, he's got a whole laundry list of reasons. His distribution managers, they're resistant. The plant managers, pushing back. The sales team, oh, they're opposing the plan. On top of that, the market's tough, and this new tech is causing delays. It's everyone's fault, but his.
But then, a total transformation happens when this VP is introduced to the concept of extreme ownership. He's told flat out, you are the reason this plan has failed. If his managers push back, it was because he failed to explain the why and get their buy-in. If the market was a factor, he failed to account for it in a strategy. His entire tower of excuses just collapsed into a single point of responsibility, himself. So instead of making more excuses at the next board meeting, he does the unthinkable. He owns it. He stands up and says, I failed. And then he presented a detailed plan of corrective measures, starting with what he was going to do differently. By taking ownership, he stopped being a victim of his circumstances and became the leader who could actually solve the problem. His credibility shot through the roof, and his team finally rallied behind him to get the plan done. So here's the crucial point. Owning your world isn't about beating yourself up. It's about empowerment.
And if this idea of radical accountability is resonating with you, if it's clicking, take a quick second to like this explainer and maybe share it with someone who you think would find it valuable. It really does help the channel a lot.
Now, this principle of extreme ownership leads to an even more powerful and maybe even a little controversial conclusion. And it's best illustrated by a story from the absolute crucible of Navy SEAL training, Bud's Hell Week.
During Hell Week, trainees are split into these 7-man boat crews. And in one particular class, 2 crews really stood out. You had Boat Crew 2. They won almost every single race. They worked together like a well-oiled machine, had high morale, and were led by a strong, effective leader. And then you had Boat Crew 6. They came in last in pretty much every race. Their morale was in the gutter, they were constantly bickering, and their leader? Ineffective, always making excuses and blaming his team.
So the senior instructors see this playing out, and they decide to run a little experiment. They take the leader from the winning Boat Crew 2 and put him in charge of the losing Boat Crew 6. And they put the losing leader in charge of the winning team. Now get this, the team members, the boats, the physical conditions, everything else stayed exactly the same. The only variable that changed was the leadership.
The result was immediate and absolutely staggering. In the very next race, Boat Crew 6, the team that had never won anything, they didn't just perform well, they won. They crushed it. And what about Boat Crew 2, the former champions? Well, with their new ineffective leader, they came in near last.
The lesson was just undeniable. When the leader of Boat Crew 6 took ownership, refused to accept poor performance, and actually believed in his new team, their performance was transformed. It proves one of the most fundamental laws of leadership, a mental model you should never forget. There are no bad teams, only bad leaders. Leadership is the single biggest factor in any team's performance, period.
So, what does all this mean for you? It means that taking ownership of your problems is the only way to gain control over them. Blame? Blame is a dead end. It just makes you a victim. Ownership, on the other hand, that gives you the power to act.
The path forward is actually pretty clear. The moment you stop blaming your boss, or the market, or your team, or your circumstances, that's the moment you can start looking at the real problem. And once you own that problem, you are empowered to develop the solutions. And when you develop the solutions, you can lead yourself and your team to victory. It all starts with that internal shift.
And that, really, is the ultimate takeaway from extreme ownership. It forces us to ask ourselves a really hard question. In your career, in your projects, in your life, are you making excuses for why things aren't working? Or are you taking extreme ownership and actually leading the way forward? The choice, ultimately, is yours.
Thank you so much for watching this explainer. If you want more deep dives into transformative books just like this one, make sure you subscribe to MindSwitch Books. And hey, if you're ready to take ownership in your own life, I highly, highly recommend clicking the link in the description to purchase the full book. You will not regret it. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.